The Booker Prize long list for 2026 was announced. If you have been living under a rock for, I don't know, the last 60 years, the Booker Prize is basically the most prestigious book prize given in the UK and is seen sort of across the world as being a marker of quality. Previous winners include Orbital by Samantha Harvey, Douglas Stewart has won it with Shuggie Bain, Margaret Atwood's won it, Alan Hollinghurst has won it, just loads of people. Who's the other one? Hilary Mantel famously has won it. It states fairly plainly on the About Us section of the Booker Prize website that the foundation exists to inspire people to read the world's best fiction. I think that too often this list focuses more on literary fiction and ignores some amazing books that are published within genres or are what might be considered a bit more commercial fiction. And so I think that there is a challenge to the Booker about that. But that doesn't mean that the books they've picked are not good. In this video, I'm going to have a quick run through of the 13 books to see if there's anything that I would like to read, or if in fact there's any that you would like to read. I've actually only read one of the 13 books that have been revealed on the long list, and that's the one we're going to start with. So this is Kyn of John by Douglas Stewart. Douglas has won the Booker before with Shuggie Bain. You may have read it. I read it and loved it. I really liked his writing. And so when I got a proof copy of Kyn of John earlier in the year, I made sure I read it. And it didn't disappoint. So I was absolutely thrilled to see this on the list. Let me read you the blurb of this one and you can decide if you would like to read it as well. Out of money and with little to show for his art school education, John Callum MacLeod takes the ferry home to the island of Harris to find that not much has changed, except for him. In the windswept croft where he grew up, Cal resumes his old life, caught between the two poles of his childhood. His father John, a sheep farmer, weaver and pillar of their local Presbyterian church, and his Glaswegian grandmother Ella, who has kept a faltering peace with her son-in-law for decades. Whilst Cal wonders if any young men might be found on the barren hillsides of home, John is dismayed by his son's long hair and how he seems unwilling to be saved. As lambing season turns to shearing season, everything is poised to change as the threads holding together the fragile community become increasingly entangled. So that's Kyn of John. I am not going to give you my opinion on it too much, except to say I did love it. Would you be interested in reading this one? We've got signed copies of this one in the shop, so I don't expect them to hang around now that it's been announced as a long-listed title, so get your hands on one quick. Helen of Nowhere by McKenna Goodman. This one, you might think, oh, that's a bit of a plain cover. This is Fitzcarraldo, if you don't know them. They publish all of their books like this. They're all blue. The cover doesn't have anything on it to tell you about what the book is about. But it does have a blurb, so I'm going to tell you about it using that. In the middle of the countryside, a realtor is showing a disgraced professor around an idyllic house. She speaks not only about the home's many wonderful qualities, but about its previous owner, the mystifying Helen, whose presence still seems to suffuse every fixture. Through hearing stories of Helen's chosen way of living, the man begins to see that his story is not actually over. Rather, he is being offered a chance to buy his way into the simple life, close to the land that's always been out of reach to him. But as evening fades into black, he will learn that the asking price may be much higher and stranger than anticipated. This is the only one on the long list at the moment that is in paperback. So if budget is your thing, maybe this is the one to start with. I think more of the paperbacks will be coming out soon, but at the moment, this is the one to start with if you're a paperback fan. The Things We Never Say by Elizabeth Strout. This one, I've never read Elizabeth Strout, and Pedro will be angry at me for that. Pedro loves her and has read all of her books. You might know her from books such as, I'm cheating to see if it's written in the front, there we go, things such as Oh William, Olive Again, My Name is Lucy Barton. They're brilliant books, Pedro tells me. And actually many people tell me they're very popular, so let's go with them, let's agree on that. Is The Things We Never Say good though? Well, let's find out what it's about. I will read you the blurb. Artie Dam is a man with a secret. He spends his days teaching history to high schoolers, expanding their young minds, correcting their casual cruelties, and lending a kind word to those who need it most. He goes to holiday parties with his wife of 3 decades, makes small talk with neighbours, and on weekends takes his sailboat out on the beautiful Massachusetts Bay. He is, by all appearances, present and alive. But inside, Artie is plagued by feelings of isolation. He looks out at a world gone mad, at himself and the people around him, and turns a question over and over in his mind. How is it that we know so little about one another, even those closest to us? And then one day, Artie learns that life has been keeping a secret from him, one that threatens to upend his entire world. Once he learns it, he is forced to chart a new course, to reconsider the relationships he holds most dear, and to make peace with the mysteries at the heart of our existence. This one, look at that, has got some lovely end papers in there of an ocean scene. That's really nice, like that. It's quite a short book. We are looking at just under 200 pages. So if a short book is what you like, then maybe this one for you. I think, and I haven't read the blurbs of all the others yet, I think this might be the next one for me to read, because it really is about time that I read an Elizabeth Strout book. So maybe this is the one to start with. Next on my pile, and I am picking these in no particular order, is The Palm House by Gwendolyn Riley. I know nothing about this one, so I can tell you it's another shortish one. This one's just over 200 pages long, so another short one. I think maybe they've learned their lesson from Orbital a couple of years ago. That was really popular and very, very short. So perhaps everyone has submitted short books this year. Let's read the blurb of this one. Laura Miller and Edmund Putnam have been friends for a long time. Theirs is a happy meeting of minds, with long evenings spent huddled in an ancient pub by the Thames, where they share office gossip, reflect on their teenage passions, and lament the state of the world. Recently, though, Putnam has been harder to reach. He has lost his father, and the magazine to which he dedicated his life has been hijacked by an insufferable new editor, Simon, call me Shove, Apney. Laura has her own problems, a prickly mother and a tricky past, and in a beautiful and indifferent city, her day-to-day life is precarious. But as Putnam starts to sink into despondency, she must try to bring him back. That sounds quite interesting. A book about friendship, maybe. Maybe they'll get together. Maybe it's not that sort of book. So that sounds quite... Maybe I might try that. Again, quite a short one, as I said. So it feels like one that maybe is a let's give it a go kind of contender. If you like Sarah Perry, you might be interested to know that she loved this book. May We Feed the King by Rebecca Perry. Again, I don't really know much about this one. Most of the books on the list I don't really know much about. So let's say that's for a given until I tell you otherwise. This one, I do know, won the Waterstones debut fiction prize a couple of weeks ago, so it's been out a little while. It's a standard sized book. It looks quite thick. It's probably about 250 pages, this one. Let me read you the blurb. She is a curator who spends her time dressing the rooms of historic buildings, bringing them to life. But in the lush private quarters of a medieval palace, she finds herself so transfixed by the reign of an almost forgotten king that the edges of her life begin to blur. He is a reluctant ruler with no hunger for power, rushed to the throne after the untimely deaths of his older brothers, but it isn't long before whispers begin to fly around the court, and with the growing belief that the king is not fit for the throne, comes the idea that another might rule in his stead. Okay, so we don't get the name of the main characters. We don't know which king it is or the name of the woman. I'm just having a quick look to see if we ever know that. I can't see that we do. Sounds like there might be a little bit of a sort of time slip going on. Maybe the main character, maybe she travels back in time. Don't know. Maybe it's just dual timeline. I would say I'm intrigued by this one. Definitely a contender. I might might pop this one on my list to read. Next up, The End of Everything by M. John Harrison. Now, my initial gut reaction to this one is it looks a bit science fiction-y. That's just purely based on the cover. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's read the blurb and find out. Philip Tennant makes his living at the tide line, collecting artefacts that wash up from the channel. It's been years since the crisis changed everything, but its exact nature remains obscure. Government barely functions. The seas are full of new creatures. Europe has been mislaid. It feels like the end. Now Philip has fished out of the water an object he can't keep, a creature that keeps changing, an artefact he must take inland before it destroys everything he thinks he knows. Okay, so I wasn't too far out. I guess it's more dystopia than science fiction. We'll have a quick look and see, because it's important. There's quite a lot of empty pages at the back, just under 200 pages again. So that seems to be the magic number this time. So I feel like maybe a lot of these are books that we might be able to read on a lazy Sunday. I'm slightly intrigued by this one, not as intrigued as I am by May We Feed the King, but that could be interesting. I wonder what he's fished out of the water. Where has Europe gone? I guess there's only one way to find out. Next up, The Renovation by Kyn of John. I don't know about this one. I know nothing about it. Let's just go straight into the blurb. I can't even tell you what the cover is telling me. I guess there's a prison bars, a sun setting, which looks a little bit like the artwork that we get on translated Japanese fiction sometimes. So maybe there's something about that in there. It looks a little bit Ishiguro, maybe. Let's see where it ends up. Dilara's father is disappearing. He has dementia, the disease stealing a little more of him each day. She persuades him to move in with her, hiring builders to adapt her apartment to his needs. But when the renovation is complete, she discovers a problem. Instead of a new bathroom, the builders have installed a Turkish prison cell. At first, she is outraged. There has surely been some mistake. Dilara's family are exiles. They left Turkey many years ago and have never been back. The last thing she wants is a piece of estranged homeland appearing uninvited in her new home. But as the weeks pass, her indignation gradually gives way to curiosity. Beyond the cell door, she glimpses Turkish guards going about their work. Through the cell walls, she hears Turkish prisoners murmuring, pacing, crying out in their sleep. And in the strange, impossible air of the cell itself, she smells the sesame scent of freshly baked simit. She tastes the fine dust of the Anatolian steppe on her tongue. Even as she struggles to care for her dying father, Dilara is drawn back again and again to the prison cell. For good or ill, its space is a threshold, a portal back to a city that once belonged to her, back to the salt winds of the Marmara, the sky full of gulls and domes and minarets, back to Istanbul. Okay. If I'd been judging it by its cover, I probably wouldn't have picked that up. But again, there's something about that I could get on board with. 240-ish pages, this one. It's not the only measure, but there's not much else I can tell you about them because I haven't read them yet. Yeah, okay, I'm curious about this one too. Luke Kennard, The Black Bag. This one just screams comedy to me, contemporary. Let's read the blurb and find out. It's quite a big one, this one. This one's our first one, I think, unless John of John was quite big, but this is over 300 pages. Let's read the blurb. A penniless and out-of-work actor picks up a job working for Dr. Blend, a university professor who is conducting a psychological experiment. How will Dr. Blend's students react to someone zipped into an oversized bag sitting at the back of the lecture hall over a series of autumn term lectures? The role, eagerly accepted, soon has unexpected consequences. A professor of post-humanism develops research questions of her own. In particular, can you love someone secreted away inside a black bag? Meanwhile, the actor's childhood friend and flatmate forms a vision for monetizing this new situation. Okay, so a weird concept. Let's run with it. Let's go with it. Let's see what it tells us about ourselves, about the human condition. That's kind of what the Booker is for. So That'll be an interesting one. It sounds like it could be funny. It does say wildly original and funny there. Joe Dunthorne is telling us that. I think, actually, Michael might like this one. This sounds very much like Michael's sort of book. So maybe this is one for him to give a go. The Vivisectors by Missouri Williams. I got this in for the shop. It was one of the... We only had 3 of these books in the shop before the list was announced. We had the Elizabeth Strout and we had the John of John. But we also had this one, purely because the cover really intrigued me. It's of a man bearing his torso and somebody sticking their finger in a wound. We sold a couple of copies. But nobody's talked to me about it. Let's find out what it's about. First, let's check the page count, and we are just below 300 pages. So there we go. Let's take a look at the blurb. In a famed but crumbling university city, it's another university. I feel like we've had maybe a couple of these. Overrun by vegetation, where power is held in a fragile balance between the academics and a contingent of rogue gardeners. It's like Agatha, but with an E. Agatha spends her days listlessly propping up the career of her fraudulent professor boss. One day, a campus scandal threatens to rupture her carefully managed routine. Adam, a contrarian and the pet student of her boss, comes into heated conflict with a rising young professor, with both men claiming discrimination. As the crisis consumes the university, Agatha remains unmoved. But when her boss instructs her to turn double agent and gather information by befriending Adam, Agatha finds herself both caught up in the events tearing the city apart and increasingly drawn towards the alluring student at the heart of it all. But can anyone be taken at their word in a struggle over the truth? Okay, so we don't know where this is. It doesn't really say when, although one presumes the sort of modern day. I don't know. It's not screaming at me to read it first. So I won't. I will read something else first. But I may still read this. I'm still intrigued by that cover. All Them Dogs by, and I might sell this wrong, Jamel White. Let's read the blurb. It looks like a sort of very angry man or a relieved man or a sad man. So there is a man experiencing emotion on the front of this book. Let's see if we can find out what emotion that is. Things are different since Tony Ward landed back in town. The West Dublin gangland has changed. His old mentor is dead and his best pal, Kenny Boyle, is on the straight and narrow. After 5 years keeping quiet across the way, Tony is keen to reinstate himself. And when the opportunity arises to work side by side with Darren Flute Walsh, a top enforcer of notorious boss Angus Lavelle, it feels like a no-brainer. Biting off more than he can chew has never bothered Tony Ward, but Flute Walsh is not the meek, quiet boy Tony remembers from school. Brooding, stoic, and unpredictably dangerous, Tony finds himself drawn to his new associate in more ways than one. With retribution from his past actions always close in the rear view, the protection offered by Flute standing in the gang is crucial. But how safe is Tony really when a mutual attraction starts to complicate matters? Okay, so this is Irish fiction. So White is from Dublin, it says in the back. And that sort of hints at maybe 2 gangsters falling in love. The friends, like the forbidden romance kind of people, maybe this is for you if you're going to read any Booker long list title. This is maybe that one. I'm more intrigued now, having read the blurb, who doesn't love a little bit of gay, than I did when I just looked at the cover. So yeah, I think that's maybe midway up the list. There are 3 more books that I need to tell you about, but we do not have copies of them. One, because one of them has sold out and we are waiting for more stock. 2, and everyone is waiting for more stock, so we'll get to that one next. And then 2 aren't yet released. They're not even out until September. So let's start with the one that is out, and then we'll go on to the final 2. This is What the Shadow of the Object by Chloe Aridigis looks like. This one is another small one. It's only 192 pages is what the metadata in front of me is saying. Let me read you the blurb. Flora is visiting home in Mexico when the family dog leaks up and bites her hand. She winds up in hospital where she undergoes several surgeries under anaesthesia and meets Wilhelmina, an elderly German woman with pneumonia who collects pre-cinema toys and instruments. The two of them embark on a series of dreamlike conversations in the hospital corridors. Wilhelmina puts on a magic lantern show for Flora, leaving her spellbound. When things take an unexpected turn, Flora finds herself entrusted with an important mission. She returns to London, where she resumes her job polishing silver at a jewellery shop, and strikes up a strange friendship with Wilhelmina's son, Max. As Flora dips in and out of her imagination, she is increasingly aware it's not only the magic lantern that projects, and her perception of reality is subtly altered. Okay, this sounds like it might be slightly mind-bending. I've just read the Hang Hang We Do Not Part, which sort of goes into that sort of slightly weird kind of dreamlike conversations between two people. I didn't love it, so I don't think I'm rushing to read this one based on that. But again, quite a short one, so might not take very long if that's the one that you're interested in. This one is available now, but we're waiting for the publisher to create more stock of it. This is Switzerie by Emma Cline. This is probably one of the biggest ones on the list with 352 pages. Let me read you the blurb. This one's not out until the 10th of September, so you've got a little while to wait for this one. A private plane cuts through the winter night somewhere over Greenland. David, a retired executive, sits back in his leather seat playing solitaire on his phone. Click, click, drag. Click. In his pocket is a notebook filled with urgent reminders, but he can no longer read his own handwriting. He's travelling with his assistant. There will be a stopover in London, dinner with his adult daughter, a meeting in France with an old friend. His final destination, a clinic in Zurich. As David glides through hotel rooms, airports and foreign cities, his grasp on the present slips away and the past rushes in. With David's arrival in Zurich looming, an exquisitely rendered portrait of an unravelling mind emerges. Okay, this one could be interesting. Obviously about a man coming towards the end of his life and choosing to end it on his own terms. I think potentially has the room to be quite a powerful one, that one. So yeah, I think that might be fairly high on my list when it comes out. Oh, here we go. The Disappearers by Marlon James is 640 pages long. You could put together like 3 or 4 of these and it still wouldn't make it that long. Let's find out a bit about what it's about. The Disappearers is Marlon James's triumphant return to the Jamaica of A Brief History of 7 Killings, a place of heat and chaos and of danger for anyone outside the heteronormal. So, when 8 gay men meet for the first time in Kingston in 1988, answering the casting call for an openly queer play, they are already taking a big risk. But that is nothing compared to what rains down on them when a mob descends on one of their rehearsals. By the end of this night, 1 man is dead, all are injured, and 2 subsequently disappear. As the survivors heal, each man finds he must confront the bigotry and homophobia that the attack laid bare. Some try to forget, some embrace their rage, and some simply vanish, but all are forever scarred. As one of the victims puts it, there's a difference between when something ends and when something stops. And this story won't stop until both the disappearers and the perpetrators have been tracked, along trails both hot and cold, and an ending reached. Marlon James has won the Booker Prize before with the Brief History of 7 Killings that is mentioned in the blurb there. It won it in the year that A Little Life didn't, and we all know how much I loved A Little Life. I did try and read A Brief History of 7 Killings, but I could never get into it. One of the few books I've not finished. If it's like A Brief History of 7 Killings, then I'm reluctant to try it. But it does sound interesting. I think the story of 8 different gay men meeting for the first time, their friendships, could be interesting. I kind of hope it isn't just about the attack and that it's about the relationships between them all. Let's put it as a maybe and see where we get to. So there is all 13 of the books. Have you made your mind up as to which one you are going to read first? Like I said, I'm going to give the Elizabeth Strout one a go. I think the one I will read next after that will be May We Feed the King. And then I think I'm going for All Them Dogs. The Marlon James, I think the size will put me off, but also because I've not previously loved his writing, that may put me off as well. But it's a nice sort of list, as there seems to be quite a bit of a balance of things. I'm particularly as well intrigued by Black Bag, so maybe that would be a good one as well. At the moment, like I said, all I've read at the moment is Kyn of John, which I loved and I think was better than Shuggie Bain. You've not got long to read the long list. The short list will be announced. I think it's usually 5 or 6 books, I think it gets whittled down to, is going to be announced on the 22nd of September. So you've got about 7 weeks. But like I say, most of these are quite small. 2 of them don't come out until about 2 or 3 weeks before the shortlist is announced, though, so you may not quite get those in. But you've got plenty of time until the winner is announced, which will be on the 9th of November in London. So lots of time to get some of these under your belt, and maybe you'll wait until that shortlist comes out and see if there's any of these that you would like. My intention for the first time is to try and read them all. I suspect I may not succeed, but yes, I'm going to try and give them all a go and see if there's any of these that I think you should read. So come back to to our Instagram, to our YouTube account at Bert's Books, and I will update you over the next couple of months as I read each of these and let you know what I think of them.